Dear Patriots, before the news starts, please subscribe to our patriotic channel by clicking the subscribe button. Give us a thumbs up to this video. Don't forget to leave your opinion below in the comments section. Share the news on Facebook and Twitter so you friends see it. Thank you.
CIA director exposes conclusion of Russian meddling investigation, liberals are pissed. The Russian meddling investigation has ended and you probably haven't heard a word of it from CNN or the mainstream media. However, according to CIA Director Mike Pompeo, the CIA has concluded that although Russians may have attempted to interfere in our election, they did not in any way affect the results. The intelligence community's assessment is that the Russian meddling that took place did not affect the outcome of the election, said Pompeo. He went on to explain that the Russians doing this is not new, and that the Russians have been at this an awfully long time. Until there is a new leader in Russia, I suspect it will be a threat an awfully long time, said Pompeo. However, despite this, some at the CIA believe that the investigation isn't over, and CNN gladly reported on that. The intelligence assessment with regard to Russian election meddling has not changed, and the director did not intend to suggest that it had, said Dean Boyd. The U.S. intelligence community is charged with monitoring and assessing the intentions, capabilities, and actions of foreign actors. It does not analyze U.S. political processes or U.S. public opinion, said the CIA's public statement back in January. What do you think is going on? ESPN's Gemma Hill tries to justify calling Trump a white supremacist. I thought water was wet. ESPN's Gemma Hill made headlines back in September when she called President Trump a white supremacist without evidence. In a recent podcast, she tried to justify her comments in a pathetic way. I thought everybody knew Trump is a white supremacist. I thought water was wet. I didn't think I was saying anything that was shocking, she said. It had been said before, and unfortunately people come through your replies now, and especially one person, radio host Clay Travis, in particular, who, is kind of drumming this anti-ESPN, liberal ESPN, banging that drum that was like catnip for him. Right, catnip. And I refuse to say his name, Travis, 'cause he don't deserve the publicity, she said. Here is what she said over Twitter that made her so famous. Donald Trump is a white supremacist who has largely surrounded himself with other white supremacists. The height of white privilege is being able to ignore his white supremacy, because it's of no threat to you. Well, it's a threat to me, she tweeted. Trump is the most ignorant, offensive president of my lifetime. His rise is a direct result of white supremacy. Period. He is unqualified and unfit to be president. He is not a leader. And if he were not white, he never would have been elected, she tweeted. Apparently all of those things are obvious, like water being wet. This is how liberals operate. Rachel Maddow caught spreading blatant lie about the GOP tax cut. Liberals and the mainstream media are doing everything they can to lie about Trump's tax cut to make it seem like a bad thing. A report came out that after the tax cut, Wells Fargo, Comcast and AT&T raised their employees' wages because of all the money they saved. MSNBC's Rachel Maddow attempted to twist that into being a bad thing. When companies start volunteering that they have come up with worthy things to do with all the money that was just dumped on them, that's how you know, oh my God, a huge amount of money was just dumped on them, said Maddow. So the effects of the tax bill started to reverberate today as the wealthiest people and most powerful corporations in this country started almost literally scrambling to figure out how they're going to handle the money the Republican tax bill just gave them, she claimed. So when your family's taxes go up because of this bill, you can't take comfort in knowing that's what you're paying for. You're giving telecom companies and biggest banks in the country a really embarrassing amount of money to have to explain away, she lied. Liberals try to make it seem like the bill takes money away from families and gives them to corporations. But this is factually incorrect. In fact, under the bill, 80% of Americans' taxes will go down. Only 5% will see an increase in taxes by more than $10. Broken Bernie just had a meltdown on live TV after tax bill passed. The new, sweeping tax cuts bill that Republican-led Congress passed was a huge win for a vision of America that does not correspond to that of Socialist Senator Bernie Sanders of Vermont. In Bernie's world, the United States would just operate as a nanny state and the government would drive up our federal deficit by giving non-stop handouts to people whether or not they work. Senator Sanders was very clearly crushed when the bill succeeded, as it plans to spur business growth and benefit all groups instead of just those with entitlements. Sanders went on Wolf Blitzer's show on CNN and went on an angry ramble about how much he hates the new law. Said Sanders, "Well, it is a victory for billionaires like Donald Trump. It's a victory for wealthy campaign contributors like the Koch brothers. But this is a disaster for the American people." According to the Tax Policy Center, at the end of 10 years, Wolf, 83% of the tax benefits go to the top 1%. 60% of the benefits go to the top 0.1%. He wasn't done and kept going, ranting, "This whole policy is based on the fraudulent theory of trickle-down economics, and that is if you give huge tax breaks to large corporations and the wealthy, somehow the middle class and working families benefit. The problem is that theory has never worked. It didn't work under Reagan. It didn't work under George W. Bush. It certainly didn't work recently in the state of Kansas. This is a payback for wealthy campaign contributors, and I think the Republicans will rue the day. They may be celebrating today, but I have the feeling that next November they will not be celebrating quite as much. Do you think bitter Bernie just make himself look very foolish?" Libs just called Alex Trebek sexist for asking female contestant one simple question about her job. Longtime Jeopardy! Host Alex Trebek seems like one of the few males left in public life who has not been accused of sexually harassing or assaulting somebody. Unfortunately, Trebek is clearly not immune to left-wing hysteria, as he was recently accused with being sexist for a comment he made to a female contestant. On the show, Trebek was making standard show patter with retired Army Master Sergeant Lisa Beth Davis, and he asked her, "That must be really tough for a woman because a Master Sergeant is giving orders most of the time. How was it for you?" The military veteran replied by saying that she was the oldest child in her family and that it made her pretty bossy. She said, without any hesitation, "I know how to tell people what to do." Trebek then stated, "So, you learned how to do it? Good for you." Any level-headed person would not think twice about Trebek's question, and would just see it as the host affirming how difficult women have it in the working world. Instead, liberal internet users accused Alex of being sexist. Said one commenter, "Still shook that on at Jeopardy last night Alex Trebek told a Marine sergeant her job must have been hard cause she's a woman." Amidst 2017 #SMH. Another decided to lecture everybody, saying, "Alex Trebek just said to a female retired USMC Master Sergeant contestant, 'Was that hard for you to give orders all the time, since you're a woman?' That is some really bold sexism, especially directed at a former US military officer. Sexism in America." One more evidently threw a tantrum, and posted, "Alex Trebek just asked a female military person if her job was hard for her as a woman because she needs to give lots of orders and I want to jump through my TV and break his nose." #Jeopardy! Do you think liberals have become hysterical? Watch Nancy Pelosi accuse Trump of committing violence against our founders for cutting taxes. House Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi condemned President Trump's tax cuts in the most ridiculous way imaginable. She began by invoking God. Then she called the tax cuts theft, and then violence, Today, we gather on this floor in the midst of a holy season. In this season we celebrate the miraculous blessings of God. We reflect on the wondrous joy of children and our responsibility to them. We remember our duty to live justly, started Pelosi. And for those of us blessed to serve in this Congress, we must remember our special responsibility to govern fairly, to meet the needs of all of God's children. In this holy time, the moral obscenity and unrepentant greed of the GOP tax scam stands out even more clearly, she said. This GOP tax scam is simply theft, monumental, brazen theft from the American middle class and from every person who aspires to reach it. The GOP tax scam is not a vote for an investment in growth or jobs. It is a vote to install a permanent plutocracy in our nation. They'll be cheering that later. It does violence to the vision of our founders, she said. It disrespects the sacrifice of our men and women in uniform, who are a large part of our middle class and to whom we owe a future worthy of their sacrifice. And it betrays the future and betrays the aspirations of our children. It morally demands a no vote from every member of this House of the People, she said. This is a clear attempt to pander to religious people. However, real religious people are far too smart to fall for her tricks.